couple of weeks back, I made a video on automatic writing. Have you seen it yet? If you haven't, I will put a link somewhere nearby so you can go have a little look over on that video, preferably first if you're absolutely unaware about what automatic writing and drawing means. It's not very necessary if you already have a general idea, because a lot of the stuff that I talk about in that video is very similar to the kinds of stuff that is relevant for automatic drawing, because I speak about what it involves, what it means, why I'm trying to introduce it into my life a bit more, and the basics of the state you need to kind of be in to automatic anything really. I think this year I'm really trying to work on the idea of like flow and letting my subconscious and intuition expand my creativity, because creativity is everything. That's something I'm also learning this year. I like the idea of being a vessel, a channel for spirit, divine, whatever you want to call it, for people to learn from, and myself most importantly to learn from and gather information from. But automatic drawing is something that I think is going to be more of a personal journey, if I'm honest, because I think if anything it should be really interesting to see what your brain kind of transmits onto the page, because it's letting a flow out that may be stuck or not usually expressed because there's no rhyme and reason behind it.
It's the merging of the real and dream worlds, sort of the conscious and the unconscious mind. And Breton sought to create a revolutionary artistic movement that could release the masses from society's rational order.
I think an interesting thing about automatic drawing is that a lot of artists use it for a way to relax. When you sit in front of a canvas or some paper with absolutely no intention, and that's something that I feel like I'm getting used to a lot more as well, getting back into that flow of just letting something happen as it happens, because really interesting things seem to come about when I do that, when I stop putting rhyme and reason behind everything. And I thought today would be a really good time for us to sit together and try this out. So if you're someone who's never done automatic drawing before, or maybe you have but it's been a while or something, there'll be a little period before I'm about to start drawing where I'll tell you to pause the video and you can start on your own little drawing adventure. And then after the video we can kind of discuss in the comments what we drew, how it felt, before and after, and even during. I know that a lot of people can sometimes sit for hours doing it because they just have this energy that just is ready to come out, and it's consistent, so why stop? I don't know whether this is going to be like a 10-minute thing for me, a 2-minute thing for me, an hour. Maybe I want to finish the whole picture.
And I want them to fall into the paper as they work in it. They don't see the paper as paper then, they see it as a window into this expression. It takes some time, it just doesn't work very comfortably with them first of all, but as they get into it, I think they get very excited about it. They have to represent in their picture their greatest secret, the secret that they wouldn't tell anyone. But of course, if people can recognize it, once they've put it in there, it's not a secret.
I would say the closest I've ever got to something like this, which I wouldn't say necessarily counts. This is my sketchbook. Got a few little cute sketches that I'm proud of. My little vegetable drawings. I don't know if you can see it because it's very bright. The sun's out today. Got a little, oh wait, that's the sorry, what was I showing you? Oh, the moon making out of a lady, because moons have feelings too. But I drew this lovely little spring woman the other evening when I was just relaxing. I didn't know what I wanted to draw, I just went with it, and I knew I was inspired by the season at the time. Seasonal changes and just the world and nature, and watching how that is, there's so much we can learn from nature and the seasons. But I wouldn't say that spring drawing was too automatic, because there was reason behind it. I was consciously drawing a face, consciously drawing leaves around her and making it look aesthetically pleasing. There's a lot of stuff about it that I could probably change, but the difference is with automatic drawing and just drawing, plain old drawing, is like meditation. A lot of people compare it to meditation, which is where you get into the idea of relaxing the mind and putting you back in your place. You're realigning your head, your body, your mind, your spirit, all that stuff. But it's a very present action, isn't it? When you're sitting with no intention, that means you're not aware of what's going to come from this session. You're not aware of how the next 10 minutes is going to look. When we have a blank canvas, the first thing we think of doing is creating for a purpose, for an end result, for a goal. It could be a commission for someone, it could be a nice drawing for your lover, or it could be something that you want to sell on a t-shirt eventually. But what meditation and automatic drawing have in common is the idea of just enjoying the process. It's a very mindful activity, actually, which is another thing that I'm doing. So like all of these things that I'm practicing at the moment, mindfulness, I'm really getting back in touch with that. It's embodying all of those things because you're just enjoying every brush stroke, pencil stroke, pen stroke for what it is. And speaking of, while I'm talking and doing this introduction, what might be good is if you can grab your sketchbook or just a bit of paper, some pencils, pens, felt tips, colouring crayons, I don't know, colouring pencils, Sharpies, whatever, even chalk, even like crayons that you haven't touched in years, or water paints, textures. Have fun with different textures and things that maybe you shied from because you don't know how to use them. If anything, this is the time to use something like that, because it doesn't matter how it's going to look in the process. If you were drawn to these certain pens because they look really satisfying to use, they feel really satisfying to use, and this is that time. So I would gather all of that stuff up while I'm chatting away, so you're ready for the part where we're about to draw together. But it's just being in the moment, in the zone. Nothing matters, it just feels good. You're letting your brain just flow and do its thing. And you could argue that this sounds an awful lot like doodling. For myself, I'm kind of using it as a way to dig into my subconscious to see what's going on in there a little bit, to see messages perhaps about myself which I wasn't opening up to previously. I can get back in touch with. If you're someone who's more mystical and you're interested in those kind of holistic, dark, like not dark arts, but alternative spiritual arts, you're probably more interested in this side, because I like the idea of potentially tapping into divine, my third eye, spirit, angels. You know, that goes with the same idea of picking up messages, whether that's from myself or divine, the same sort of thing really. Doodling, I think, is similar because people doodle when they listen. Like, picture someone in a lecture, they're listening to their lecturer, so their conscious mind's busy here, but their subconscious is like drawing something down here. I think that's quite similar to automatic writing, because when you automatic anything, it's probably best to keep your conscious mind busy so you're not thinking too much about what you're doing down here. So there's that to it, but you are likely to flick in and out of that. So you're listening and then you're looking back down, and that's when you start like accidentally drawing something the lecturer's talking about, or even writing down a word that he's just said, and you're like, oh, didn't mean to do that, but it doesn't matter because I'm doodling anyway. I saw one definition of doodling as taking a line for a walk, and I like that because it sums up pretty well. Like, when you're doodling, you're scribbling something down and then consciously making it into a shape that you relate to. Like, say you're doodling a circle, you're doodling lots of circles, and then because you're seeing lots of circles down there, you might then turn it into a bunch of grapes, and then you add some leaves, and then you've doodled some grapes there. You don't know why you did that, doesn't make any sense, but your conscious mind was like, oh, my subconscious is just suddenly drawing loads of circles. That reminds me of grapes. So you're like working with each other, and then next minute you're like creating some sort of purpose behind it. Eventually, when you finish doodling, it's nicer to draw some eyes or ears and make it into something that makes sense in the corner of your notebook, so then it can sit there with a bit of purpose. You know those things you did as kids where you like drew a circle on a bit of paper, and then the activity was to try and make that scribble into a drawing, so you'd colour it in and give it some eyes, and next minute you've got a funny looking monster. That's doodling to me. Whereas for me, automatic writing doesn't come with that like necessary need to make it look pretty, or not necessarily look pretty, but be finished off. It is what it is. Or you don't draw a line without thinking and taking in that experience of drawing a line. If you're not fully taking in the fact, the enjoyment and the feelings and the experience and the fact that you are doodling down here, you're not properly automatic drawing because you're not really gaining anything from it per se. Whereas if you were perhaps automatic writing, you're doing it out of getting some sort of information at the end. There is an end result goal there, really, because you're like, I need to guess what this person's thinking. I need to channel, I need a message. I need to hear from spirit. You know, people automatic write every morning with the purpose of having a journal at the end of it that gives them all these answers that they need about their life. Whereas drawing is a lot more present, it's a lot more mindful. That's the conclusion I've come to personally. Let me know if you disagree. I'm a noob. I don't do automatic drawing. This is the first time I've properly sat down with the intention to not have intention. Hopefully you've got all your stuff collected up now. Make your intention at this point clear. Similar to as I was saying in my automatic writing video, make it clear about what you're doing here. I think it's good to be safe. So if you are doing this for the purpose of like channeling spirit or the divine, be protected. Whatever you do for that, use crystals, pray, use salt, keep your space cleansed, use incense, protect yourself if that is the case. If this is just a subconscious relaxing thing, then go into it with that intention. You wouldn't necessarily need to be protected for something like that.
So number 1, we're going to start drawing lines without thinking. Number 2, we're going to experiment with mark making and different drawing tools. We're going to do 2 today, the brush pen and the woodless pencil. However, if you just have a Sharpie or a ballpoint pen or an ordinary pencil, that's fine. And today we're going to try to fill up pretty much the entire page of our sketchbooks if we can.
And with that being said, let's dive in to some drawing. I'm going to sit and do a few deep breaths and then just begin whenever I feel ready. You at home, I want you to do the same thing. So sit like I am, start drawing and just go with it. See what happens, enjoy yourself. Let me know in the comments when you finish what you took from this mentally, emotionally, physically. Like, what did you draw? That would be really cool to know. And it will be really, really interesting to see if this unlocks some kind of creative abilities that people didn't realize they had, or if there's themes. If you continue doing this, do you seem to draw the same thing? That could be something that is not only advising you about your life, but also guiding you in your creative pursuits. Like, there could be a kind of way of drawing that you unlock. That would be really interesting. Let's begin. As per usual with a lot of mindful spiritual practices, I think there's a lot we can take from children and getting inspired by the way that they draw. A lot of the time they're just, especially when they're really young, they're just drawing because it feels good to have pencil on paper. Do I need a rubber? I don't really know, because I'm not supposed to stress about anything, am I? Okay, I'm already keen to go. Okay. Right. Okay. Can sense me wanting and thinking about colour, so I'm just gonna go for one of these, I guess. I do feel like a child. I really feel like I'm channeling that idea of just scribbling absolute nothingness, and it feels good. If it was doodling, if I was sitting down with the intention of doodling right now, I would be trying to make this make sense, I think. My logical brain would step in and be like, right, I'm clearly doodling something here. But wouldn't it be cool if this doodle looked like a dragon or whatever? But at the moment, I don't even know what's going on here. That's probably the only thing that makes sense on this entire page, because it looks a bit like a sun in the corner there. Now, the important thing to remember here is you don't have to like your drawing, because I wouldn't give this a second look. If I saw it anywhere, I don't think it looks necessarily good. Okay, well. I saw someone on a interview talking about channel drawing and describing it as microscopic drawings. So drawing something that looks microscopic without the microscope. So I can understand where they're coming from with that. So, how did you find it? Me, personally, I'm intrigued to know whether it went the same as how I felt mine went. And that was nothing like I expected. In fact, this is very out of my comfort zone because I didn't really realise how much I don't resonate with things just not having rhyme and reason. I mean, I guess in some areas I get that really well, and then I guess artistically I do not. But I would consider myself quite indifferent about abstract artwork, and at the end of the day this is abstract artwork, so like I need to just remember that it doesn't need to make sense. But I look at other people's abstract work and I'm like, yeah, I like that, that's cool, it's nice to look at, it's at least aesthetically pleasing. If it's not going to actually like mean anything, at least I can look at it and it can mean something nice to my eyeballs. But this like I said, initially I think I'm having a hard time, and I was having a hard time with the idea of it not really, like, you know, it doesn't feel even complete, but like I was just done, like I just felt done with it, and I knew it didn't look done, but I felt at one point I was just putting things on it for the sake of putting things on it. I like this part, almost looks like a portal or something. But my opinion on it kind of changed when I happened to just to take a picture of it and send it to a group chat. And interestingly, Adam had said it looked political. Something about it reminded him of politics. Abby also said the same thing, so to hear two people saying that was really baffling to me, because to me it just looks like stuff. Abby in particular was saying it reminds her of like the American dream and a kind of corrupt society and like what people are believed to like dream. And it got me thinking. I was like, okay, this is cool, because at the end of the day art makes you feel a certain way, it's supposed to make you think of certain things. Perhaps that I've created some sort of like representation of human distractions, I suppose, focuses, like empty promises, empty focuses, things that don't actually mean anything in the grand scheme of things, like stuff that keeps us as far from being like spiritual human beings as possible. It got me inspired to put it on my Instagram to see what people had to say. And Millie said, this is what my brain feels like, which I found interesting, because the whole point of this is really to like dump out all of the stuff that's going on in your brain, essentially. Becca said destruction, like chaos. So that kind of goes with the whole like chaotic society concept that Abby had and Adam. Something really interesting happened when I finished and turned the page over by accident, realizing I had completely ruined the other drawing on the other side of this page, because at one point I got Sharpies out and just went a little bit nuts, soon making me realize I've completely stuffed up the little lovely spring lady that I literally spoke about in this video. She had like Sharpie all over her, and it just looked, you couldn't see her anymore. She's kind of hidden behind all of these like scribbles and scratches and like different pen textures I was doing, and it made me really sad because this had no meaning. I wasn't that proud of it, and on the other side was something that I felt was more meaningful and almost like a little spirit creature inside of my book, and I just ruined her. I squished her, essentially. But this is where it gets interesting. Because I was in that mind state, because I was in a headspace where I was just going with the flow, I was trusting the process, I was just letting myself escape the do's and don'ts of illustration and art, and I was just running with things. I was using pens I wouldn't usually touch. I was just in a very kind of chaotic but experimental space. I dangerously carried that on into my other art pieces, which is not something I would usually recommend or tell myself to do. I'm very like, even with doodles and just like things that don't make a lot of sense, I put loads of time into stuff that doesn't actually look like it took a lot of time. Like this little honey bear thing, I love him, and he looks like a complete doodle. He doesn't look like anything like that amazing, like skill wise, but my god, like the time and love, and even these guys, the time and love and attention that went into that, because I'm not the most skillful artist in the world. So it's not like me. And even this little guy, this took age. Do you know how long this took? Even though it was just supposed to be like an intuitive drawing. I applied this headspace into my little spring lady drawing, and I just got some greens and some pens, whatever I had in my hand, and I just drew over her because I didn't want to lose her in the image, in the page. I was like, oh, so I just started like getting my ink pens and drawing over what I usually focus on as like pencil drawings, and I brought her back to life. What's interesting is at the beginning of this video I was saying I wasn't really proud of it. It's just like a thing that I put together, and now I love her. There's almost like some sort of part of me more so like in this drawing. I know it doesn't look necessarily crazy beautiful or talented, but there's more of like me and passion behind it. Like even the vines that go around her body, that was ink. I couldn't rub that out, and I usually love being able to rub things out if they go wrong, but I just went for it. I was like, oh dear, this might go a bit wrong, but I just and I understand sometimes it's hard if you've got a big canvas, for example. You're gonna worry about effing that up because that might even take like weeks to put together. But sometimes getting to the process, getting to the part of you that creates the best art for you, getting in touch with how you as an individual makes art isn't overnight. It's like a process that you kind of have to get to, from doing bad drawings, from doing good ones, from trying with pens that you don't usually, from just going for it without thinking that you need to sell your first piece. It's making me want to dedicate some time before I draw as my kind of primer moment, so I can just let my hand go, find myself in that headspace where I'm just flowing and just trusting the pen on the paper, and then as time's gone by, heading in straight into actual illustrations and creating stuff up that comes from the heart, but collaborates, I guess, with conscious too. What I didn't like about this activity was the fact it was completely subconscious, so it wasn't making sense, but I think it's, oops, I'm spilling coffee everywhere. It's valuable to be able to connect the two together, so where the subconscious and conscious kind of go hand in hand and guide each other along. That's sort of what I think this experiment has taught me. Perhaps I can from now on experiment with having no inspiration but just like the guide of my flow, and just seeing where that takes me.
I love exploring all kinds of spontaneous practices because I think that they help us to tap into our deeper unconscious mind. And so when we go below the surface of our social self, oftentimes there's pain there and there's rejected parts of self. But underneath that is our authentic self and also our authentic style as artists.
It's a terrific creative release as well. And I know that people who don't work this way will go back to their way of working. But I hope they'll take some of this with them.
You guys can let me know if you are a automatic pro, how you think I did. Even the stuff that I said in this video, was it right? Did it make sense? What did you take from this video just watching it if you didn't take part in the drawing? Does it remind you of like your natural way of doing things? Have you done it accidentally before? Or do you feel like you're maybe creatively blocked because you haven't done automatic drawing for a while? It might inspire you and open up like a new energy portal for you to kind of continue in your next works. Perhaps you discovered your art style by doing stuff similar. Ooh, what's this? Ooh, Mike messaged saying, the drawing reminds me of the smell of pencils and paper. I love that. Like the idea of a creative mass and mess. I do actually feel a lot more artistically inspired now. Weirdly, I want to create and make. I do feel like there's a clearer energy around my creative portal, I guess, in a way, where I feel like there's less junk there getting in the way of me wanting to, like, I'm getting excited about these empty pages, and at the beginning of this video I didn't feel that way. So I'm really excited about the idea of trying this method, like to get into that headspace again, and to also create in the best ways and most meaningful ways to me that I can. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I am on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter if you want to follow me on any of those. I have a tarot reading Instagram and a tarot reading Facebook if you want to book a tarot reading with me. I make loads of videos like this, so if you want to see more, do make sure you subscribe to my channel to be notified every time I make a brand new video, and I'll see you guys for my next one.